So, my friends, here's your heads up to this very long podcast. Well, it's not very long, but it's deep. It goes on for good detail. And it's something that I know will change your lives. I know I say that a lot, but this will change everything I say is changing your lives. But it will change your lives. Because all you have to do is not just ask a question, but ask the right question in the right way. And you will get every answer that you ever dreamed of. And it will change your life forever. And not only forever, but forever better. That's got to be worth a listen. Listen after this, please.
Warning.
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 Warning. You are entering into the unplugged mind of Paul Clough. Too late. Personal Development
and
Unplugged.
We're back for another longer podcast. It's me, Paul, your friend. Good to see you. Good to be in your ears. Good to be in your mind, in your head. And I'm going to give you something today. You see, the answer is only as good as let me start in this way. There's not that many people that I know of share the power of questions, asking questions. Tim Ferriss, he's one that springs to my mind. He's a great advocate of asking questions. I know, and he shares it. He shares the type of questions that he asks. So he gives great examples. He even gives you examples of the answers he gets and how he does it. And I think that's one of the best things you can do is if you've got something that you know will help somebody, then you share it. You don't just give them a little inkling about it and then go, well, come and sign up or do this. It's sharing. And that's what we do. Well, that's what we do here, isn't it? We share. But you see, I also see there are some people who try a little bit too hard, try to be a little bit too fancy. I know when I used to learn, in my early days of learning hypnosis, there was a thing that people try to be so clever with their language. They would confuse the living daylights out of people and think it was good. Well, in fact, sometimes you can be clever with your language if you know what you're doing and know where you're going, but just to do it for the sake of being a smart ass. And I think, you see, I overheard, it's quite a big podcaster really, and generally I love the work that they do. This particular podcast came out and said, and it's just like a little snippet, but it rankled me. It said, questions are answers. And I went, really? Think about it. That sounds really clever, doesn't it? All questions are answers. And then I thought to myself, again, is that really clever? No, it bloody isn't, is it? Because questions create answers. They are not answers in their own right, because if they were answers in their own right, they wouldn't be questions. They'd be answers. And answers would produce answers, and they don't. Questions produce answers. And I'm not being clever with my language, but that's what it is. But it is the quality of the question and the intention behind the question. What the hell are you talking about, Cluffy? But here's the thing. Questions can create answers. Don't they do that all the time? Well, my simple answer to that is absolutely not. All questions do not create answers each and every time. Because, well, I want to tell you because I fell into a real trap with this. But also, some of the questions you ask, if you do it deliberately with intention and know what you're doing, you ask a question, but you don't answer it. But you expect to experience the answer. And then once you've experienced the answer, you would review, give a little bit of gratitude, a pat on your back to your best friend, your unconscious mind, for producing that answer for you. I'm going to go through examples of this, by the way. And you'd feel really good. And because you feel really good, because of what's happened as you review the day or that particular thing, your unconscious mind goes, do you know what? I can do better. I can do better. Just ask a better question. Or just keep asking this type of question and I'll keep coming up with the goods. Because your unconscious mind does that anyway. If you think about it, and I will go through this in detail, but if you think about when you ask a question and let it go and something happens, that's just a natural process. Because if you think about it, we sometimes will say to ourselves, oh no, how bad will it get now? What's the worst thing that can happen now? Oh, this is terrible. What more? What more crap can I get? And guess what? Your unconscious mind goes, oh, that's a question. I can answer it. Because your unconscious mind doesn't evaluate the quality of the question. It just says, all questions are good questions. And if I can find an answer, I will. And then if I can't quite find an answer, I'm going to get this other type of answer and ram this circular answer into this square hole. And then we experience the old crap that comes with it. But you see, there are other type of questions you could ask. And I was thinking about this because, as I say, believe it or not, I do make some notes about this. And I was thinking, well, what other things why would you ask questions? And one of them is, it struck me right in the middle of my eyes, my middle eye, as it were, flash of the bleeding obvious, that, well, you've been studying NLP for 21 plus years. And one of the basis of NLP, how it originated was through modeling. In fact, the two originators of NLP, Richard Bandler, John Grinder, got together because Richard Bandler was doing this work. The story goes, he'd been reading about it, doing stuff, tried to replicate it, was getting some awesome results, but didn't know quite how. So he asked John Grinder to come along and tell him what he was doing. And John Grinder said, well, I will only do it if I can model it and get the same results with you. Or say again, Paul, get the same type of results as you're getting. And that means then I'll have the model. And from that, they went on to model people like Fritz Perls, great therapist. Fritz Perls, Virginia Satir, a wonderful family therapist. Milton Erickson, awesome. I keep saying awesome. He's one of the biggest, best known hypnotherapists. Comes from Phoenix, Arizona. Bless him, he's dead now, but I'm sure he's looking down on every hypnotist, urging them to do great work. They were all great therapists, getting great results, but not quite understanding how they did it. They just knew that if they did what they did, they got the results. And because they're all getting great results, a lot of people think, well, they must be doing the same things because they're dealing with the same type of problems. But they weren't. Virginia Satir was being very specific. Milton Erickson was being artfully vague. Fritz Perls was doing a lot of dissociation, doing those perceptual positions, sitting in a chair, things like that. And they modeled them. And to model, you have to ask questions. Now, and I'll tell you one of the things I did I might have told you this before, about asking questions. But I'm going to keep on this summary bit first. The other type of questions you ask, you have to work at. What do you mean by that? Well, this is what I mean by that. It's a good question. I'm glad you asked it. Now, what do you have to do at work at questions? You see, you have to, I believe anyway, you have to focus on the question and focus on the answer. You have to work your muscle up in that head of yours, that brain, to really think. Some might call it critical thinking. To me, it is just getting focused and really applying yourself with an intention, getting in the right state, and maybe focus, flow, whatever it is, and you think. And because you have that intention, you find answers. But it hurts sometimes doing that. I found that out lately anyway. So there's 3 different types of contexts where you ask questions, but they all have different answers as though. So not every question, because if you don't ask the right question on the experience, as we said, you'll get the answer. If you think about how bad it will be for me, you don't really want to know that answer, do you? But you've asked it. So it's how you frame that question. It's also how you frame that question when you're modeling people. Because a lot of times when you model people, they will just say, I don't know. How do you do that wonderful thing? I don't know, I just do it. So you have to be very specific. How do you do this? What do you do first? And then. And really break it down. And those ones you have to work out, you have to get the right questions to get your mind arrowed in to find the answers. Anyway, let's start with the ones you need to experience. I said I'd give you some examples. And you see, initially, this is where I said I fell foul. Because I I must admit, sometimes I do look for the easy way out. I know we want things simple. And I thought the simple way of if you ask a question, like the ones you need to focus on, I want to get better at this and what's holding me back, and I'm going to really think about it and what are the things I can do. I used to think, well, if I ask that question and then let it go, I really don't have to do anything, because my unconscious mind will go away and then find the answer, come back and go, hey, Cluffy, that question you asked yesterday? And you know what? Sometimes it does work, but mostly they didn't. Why didn't they? Well, I think I was lazy. I was lazy because I wasn't really putting any effort in. I asked some really good questions, but I didn't give it value, I think. So my unconscious mind, I'm going to guess this. This is me like going into my perceptual position of going into my unconscious mind and being my unconscious mind. Thought, well, it's not that important to you, is it, Cluffy? So I'll have a look at it sometime. I'll come back to you. And if something else more important comes along, which it probably will, I'll deal with that first. So in some respects, I guess, it didn't feel important enough. Certainly to my unconscious mind. I went, yeah, we'll get to it when we get to it. But that principle of asking questions and letting it go in the right context really, really does work. But they work in a real different way. You see, it's certainly I think when you're invested in the outcome as well, because getting that value, your unconscious mind knows how important it is. Now, here's a thing, just thought about it. Long time ago, I was working with this young lady for a fear of flying. And we she was so bad. She would go on a plane because she had a family, they wanted to go on holiday. But as that plane was going down the runway to take off, she would get up out of her seat and start walking to the door because she wanted to get out. Now, that's dangerous. And she wouldn't be, she's having a panic attack and she's like unsafe to herself and to other people. So the intention of a fear is to protect yourself. She wasn't being protected one bit. But we used to say, well, just before you do that, in a bit of the therapy work, I go, well, just imagine this. And this is sort of a question. Ask yourself, if this definitely wouldn't happen, how would you like it to be? Ask that question to yourself. How would I like it to be if I knew it's definitely not going to happen? I'm not going to fly, so it's not going to happen. So there, I do not have any fear because I know it's not going to happen. And she would then visualize out exactly how she wanted it because she's asked that question. Now, that's not quite the context I was in, but it was like asking the question and being able to visualize it. But what we said was, she had another issue. And so I used the same principle because that was part of getting rid of a fear. Then we did some phobia work and boom, it disappeared. But she said, Paul, I got another problem. Now this one, I go flying once, twice a year. But the real problem is I have to go to the bank every Friday. That's very good of you. Why? What's the issue? And she said, well, my job needs me to go to the bank to pay some money in. But she says, I get that same type of panic attack going into the bank. I just can't do it. So I said, without any, what would happen if, and just imagine, I said, just do this for me, because we know it works. Here's a little question, and we wrote it on a card, little one of those little index cards. And it is, and this is the basis of this question, what would it be like to go in the bank and to laugh all the way through the time I'm in the bank? What would that be like? And she thought, well, that's never going to happen, so I can think about that. I can write that down. We wrote it down. And then I saw her a little while later, and she said, Paul, disaster. Oh, no, not another panic attack. She said, no, Paul. The disaster was, I kept bloody laughing. Because I went in, and I saw somebody, and I started laughing. And then I went to the teller to give the money in, and I started laughing again. And it's quite embarrassing. I got it done, but I can't go back. I can't keep going in there laughing. So I said, well, why don't we change the question? And it would be, wow, what would it be like? What would it be like to go through the bank today? Because you have to be specific. Today. And have a lovely inner smile and feel comfortable. What would that be like? And now what I add to the end of that, this or something better. So you telling your unconscious mind, this is what I think it would be like, or I would like. But if you can come up with something even better, that would be good. And you've been specific, because it is today when I'm going at 10 o'clock this morning, or whatever time it was. Saw her again a little bit later, and she had this big smile on her face. And she said, Paul, boom, no problem. I had this little inner smile. I could feel it on the inside of my cheeks and my lips and things like that. But I felt so comfortable. And she said the funny thing was, and this is what tends to happen, the funny thing was, I forgot to read it the second time to go in the bank. And it wasn't until I came out of the bank that I remembered that I hadn't read that card about being comfortable with the inner smile. But she said I went through that bank with an inner smile. So I just thought to myself, well, it was okay. So automatically, her unconscious mind had said, well, actually, this is a better way. So let's do the better way until we find this or something better. And I do that question with every client I see. For me, for every coaching call I do online, I do some live Q&A calls for my son's mastermind group, and I ask the same type of question. What would it be like to be able to access all my skills, to be able to have this client achieve a momentous result, better than they could ever imagine, do it all within 60 minutes? And I change the time to 63 minutes, 65, 59, I just change it. And to enjoy every moment and to learn from it. I wonder what that would be like, this or something better. They're the type of words I use. I used to write it out, but now I just say it to myself and feel it. And then I'll be working with that client, and we get to that point and we go, I think we're done. How do you feel? Oh, and we get all that good stuff. And I look at my watch, and it's within a minute, generally, 9 times out of 10, or even 9 times out of 8. I'm on the minute. I'm on the money. I'm right on it, out the park. So I know that type of question works. I've invested in it. It's important to me. And I've said how I want to feel. And it's for the better good. It has great value to me. Also has great value to other people as well. So I know my best friend is now going to go out and do something or go inside, rather, and do something. And sometimes when I've been working with a client, I have said something or changed a process so subtly without consciously being aware of it at that particular time. It just was like in the flow, in the moment. And it was this or something better, because I really hit the mark again. And it's then you go, do you know what I'm learning from that? Oh, that's like my question. Always learning. So those learnings will be available to me whenever I need them. That's the other part of the question. So those type of questions just work. And you can use that type of question if you want to say, well, I'm going to a meeting. What would it be like to be, calm, collected, to be able to access all the data that I need to share with people, to be communicative? That's not a word, is it? Communicative. To be able to communicate. You know what I mean? To be able to connect. To be confident. What would that be like today at this meeting? This or something better. They are awesome questions. You have to admit that. I know you do, because I know they just work. You see, it just works. Question that you leave, but you always have to go back to review it. And when you review that day or that meeting and you go, do you know what? That was absolutely bloody brilliant. I always say, we were brilliant there. Pat on the back. Awesome. Thank you. And your unconscious mind goes, I'll do better than that next time. I know they do. I know mine does. I know it's going to exceed my expectations every time. So make a note of that. You might have to rewind this and do it again. But these are not little golden nuggets. These are bloody great big golden rocks, I think. Anyway, moving on. Then we get to ask someone how they do what they do. As I said, that in effect is modeling a specific skill. Now, who can you model? Well, obviously you can model other people. So if you see somebody in real life and they're doing something, you say, how do you do that? That was absolutely brilliant. I just love the way that you've got this wonderful skill. How did you do it? I don't want to know how you learn. I want to know how you do it. I can learn that. Or you can learn from yourself. Because obviously, if you think about it, and this is what I love I love doing with clients, is if they're confident in one area of their life, but unconfident in another, how do you do that confidence? And what would it be like if you did it over there? And they go, well, it'll be brilliant if I did it over there. Well, why not do it? And we just, in some way, just plot it over. And the unconscious mind will then go, yeah, it's a better way. Let's do that. Simples. A little bit more detail than that, but the philosophy is just the same. But the thing is, what you have to do, and this is where the skill of modeling, whether you're asking yourself, whether you're modeling others, you have to ask specific questions. Because as I said earlier, when I started, people will say, I don't know how to do it. When you knew to make that close, how did you do it? How did you know? And they go, I don't know, I just know it. No, you say. I know you know. You just don't know you know. What happened just before that? And what happened just before? Get to the beginning. Okay, and then what happened? Well, I saw this picture of mine. And when you saw that picture of mine, and then what happened? And you're building up the steps of a strategy. And you see, the other way of doing that is you can also model and help people model themselves on things that they do wrong, or not wrong, that they're not happy with. Imagine things like buyer's remorse coming from like a spendaholic. Someone who buys stuff and they're maxed out on their credit card, they've got debts. What does that lead to? Anxiety, depression, and all sorts of stuff. But when you look at their strategy and you model their strategy, you find out what's missing. Because you see, for an example, something like that would be see and feel first. I see something, I feel it. Next one. This is good. I feel good. I'm going to buy it. Boom. And so on. What happens? They're broke. They miss one part of the strategy. But to find that, you'd go to a person who is very good at buying things or not buying things. And you find out they've got one other bit of a strategy just before the buy. And they ask themselves the question, do I need it? And can I afford it? And as soon as you ask, and that gets you out of that loop. Because if you seeing things and it feels good and I buy it, and then I see something else and I feel good and I buy it and I see something else, it's a loop. And you need to exit that loop. So again, we're modeling people who have got a good strategy and also modeling people who've got a bad strategy and then adapting that strategy. And it just works. So, and you see, here we go. I'll give you another example. Told you this before, but if you weren't here before, then it wasn't you I told. But it was my master prac for NLP. We had to do strategies and elicit a strategy. And I told you earlier, I'm a little bit lazy. And I thought, what's the easiest thing I could do? Well, at the time I knew somebody who liked horses, and I'm not a big fan, to be fair. And to be fair, I'm a little bit frightened of them because they're bloody big buggers, aren't they? So I thought, I'm going to model how you walk up to a horse and feel okay. Because I didn't, and I wouldn't. And I thought, it can't be that difficult because they just walk up to a horse and boom. And I thought, well, it'll be so easy, I thought to myself. You'll just learn a couple of steps. You'll go up to the horse, tap it on the head. Yay. And we're done. Wasn't that easy? And to elicit that little strategy, there was about 5 steps from seeing a picture in their mind, saying to themselves, oh, you're magnificent. Not to themselves, but to the horse. You're magnificent. Feeling a connection. And as they could feel that connection, they could see it, and that horse got bigger. And there was a few things, but that was the nature of that strategy. I thought, I could do that. It's still not that big. I can do that. And you know what? And you see what happens is in that master prac, not only do you have to elicit a strategy, but you then had to present it to the whole group and loads of people who had been invited to the last weekend. So pretty big deal. But I thought, I'm going to crack on with this and do it. And I got the call. I asked specific questions. I got all the steps. I just knew I had everything. I could do it in my head, no problem. I didn't have to have it on a card. I've got this strategy nailed. And I got the call. Hey, Paul, horse is in the little corral thing. Come on, do it now. I thought, blimey. Come on, Paul. You're 5 minutes away. Get in the car. Come now. So, okay, I did it. I went down. Opened this blooming old fancy thing. There, I saw the horse. Did the strategy. Guess what? As I was doing the strategy, I walked towards the horse walked towards me. Awesome. Everything is going. And then, well, I was going to say going to plan, because I stopped then because I noticed there's another bloody horse in this corral. It saw me. I looked at it, did the same strategy, because I didn't know what else to do. What happened? That horse come and walked with the other horse to me. In the end, I've got these two bloody great big horses with their heads on my shoulders, making horsey noises, but on my shoulders. Strategy done. What was missing, do you think? Yeah, tumbleweed. It was in my head. How the bloody hell do I get out? I didn't know how to let go because I'd made such a good connection. As I walked backwards towards the gate, bloody horses came with me on my shoulders. Oh, dear. But the thing is, I got out of it, by the way. I'm still here. I'm alive. But the thing is, I use that type of strategy with other animals. I can use it with other people because I've elicited a strategy of going to connect with some animal, some person. It works. So I adapted that strategy to do other things. I'm no longer fearful. But you're going to say to me, Paul, but I don't know people. I don't know people who I can go and talk to do that skill. How else can you do it? Read autobiographies and ask questions in your head to look for answers so you can model, because the answers are there. If you can hear audios of them being interviewed, telling you what they do, you will pick it up if you are focused on getting those steps. Videos, you'll be able to see their physiology, their movement. Someone doing something, like if you're playing golf, you watch them, what they're doing, then you talk to them, but you hear the interviews with them, or you read their autobiography. And as you do that, you try it on in your head. First of all, you try it on with that strategy you've elicited, and notice how good it feels in your head to do that. And then you go and practice, and then you visualize again, then you go back to the strategy, and you just adapt it to yourself. Because obviously your physiology, your actual muscle mass and height and weight and shape might be slightly different. Probably is quite a lot. But you will get it. So you'll improve what you're doing. The level of where you are, you will improve upon that. Great. Modeling is awesome. There are so many things that I have certainly saved money on because people have been saying, here's a wonderful process that I sell. And as I listen to them, there's enough information there to model that process. Or if people, I've had one where I do the 101 in business to get a company that, whether it's a single solopreneur or bigger business, how to find leads, how to get more business, how to keep clients. This guy was selling this lovely, I think it was about a 4-day course, and he went through it. Well, I just listened to it twice and elicited his strategy. May not got it all, but I got 90% of it, I know. And I could find the rest because it has spurred me to create the rest just by modeling. And the thing is, it's bloody interesting. And you feel good when you've done it. But again, you're asking questions. Even if you can't ask them, you're asking questions in your mind. What did you do next? What are they doing next? How are they standing? Where's their weight? Or, where are they looking? I wonder what pictures they're making in their mind. I wonder if it's this picture. Oh, it's that picture. And as soon as you start to imagine you're in their head, in their body, you will get a connection to what they're doing. It's absolutely amazing. As I said, I said this, I don't know when, but in my trainer's training, people would come along to that trainer's training. Even though they were trainers, they wanted to model this particular trainer. And I modeled them in a way, although at that time I was training to be a trainer. I was listening and learning, but I was also modeling by just watching and making notes of what they did with their body. But these people would go to the back of the hall and move as that person was moving to get the same physiology, because they knew how to train or to teach, but they wanted his physiology. And in that way, they would find more information inside themselves. Endless possibilities. So only your imagination is your limit, and that's limitless. So there you go. Infinite potential. Now, then there's the ones what? We're on our third bit of the questions, by the way. Just keep up. Then there's the ones you have to work at, the questions you have to work. As I told you, I used to let them fly. Never came back. or they did occasionally, because it wasn't working for me. And I had to come up with a way, because I knew questions were the way to go. They are the way to go. And I'd listened to the way Tim Ferriss asked his questions, and I thought to myself, they're so similar to mine. And I was able to look at what he was doing, look at what I was thinking. And then I thought to myself, well, something is missing. What is he doing differently to me? Because he was asking questions in his journal, and so was I. But as I said, I would ask a question and wait for it to come and hit me on the head, right between the eyes or wherever, by my unconscious mind coming back and reminding me that I'd asked a question and here's an answer. But Tim would do something different. He would work at it. He would put time aside. And he would work at that particular question. And he would really focus, put intention into it, put value into it. He knew the answer when he found it would be of value. And the answers he found changed his life. And I've noticed when I listen to his podcast, and I've been listening to for years now, how his life has changed. And how, if you went back and modeled that a little bit, you would notice the questions have changed slightly, because as he gets deeper and better, he gets better questions. And then he gets better answers, which creates better questions and gets better answers. So maybe answers do create questions. They may create questions, but they're not questions. But the thing is, you have to set your intention. Now, that's a glib statement, but the intention, I guess, is just to say, well, I intend to find this answer because I want this to happen. This is my value I put on it. It's important to me because this answer means to me, to finding the answer to this means it's so important. Now you're putting a huge value on it. You set your intention. Your unconscious mind goes, okay, Cluffy, or how you call yourself, let's get going. But then you have to let's get going. So you have to schedule time to think. And it's not just schedule once. You may have to schedule once, twice, 3 times, as many times as it needs. But each time I think you'll notice that the answers are growing or changing. Now, with my little strategy now is, as I do my journaling and I come up with a thought, I will, if I don't stop there and then, when I finish my journal page, I have this little book of mind maps and I will start. I know I've scheduled 10 minutes extra time to ask a question. Don't know what the question will be yet, but as my journal says, here's something to think about. There's my question. Yeah, it's a value to me. That's why I'm going to mind map it now. And I'll go through it in various ways, and I'll talk about those in a moment. But I'll do it in a way that I'll ask a question, I'll sit and listen, I'll go in my head. If anything comes up random, I'll make a note of it. I'll put it down. And sometimes in my mind mapping, I'll have one side of the page just for randoms that come up. Because the bloody thing is, you'll be working and working and working, and your eyes will they'll go over to the left. That's my little column on the left where my random notes come in, and I'll see something and go, that fits over here. Got it now. I had to have it over there to come over here because let me to think. And I'll also, with my mind map, I'll leave some little lines that are, so instead of a line with an answer and then another line with an answer to that, as my thinking develops, I'll put some random lines down with no answers. And again, it's like saying to your unconscious mind, go on then, you fill it in for me. You come up with something even better. And generally it does. I mean, there's 1 or 2 writers of the past there, and maybe of the present, they would, instead of like coming to the end of their day of writing, and come to a point where they're comfortable saying, that's it, I've finished that chapter. They would actually go on to the next paragraph and not finish the paragraph, not finish a sentence, and then go away. And for some people, that would really rankle them. But their unconscious mind goes, okay, I'm going to work on this while you're asleep. And when they'd come back, it was if, like magic, they would continue writing because the answers had been germinating overnight. And that's what I find happens when I leave those lines off or when I come back to reschedule. You see, I've been doing, here's the thing, and it's going to be difficult to explain. I'll try my very best. But I've been reading about, I don't know if it's a thing, you call it a thing, or a process called ikigai, a way of finding your passion. A passion, in some ways people put it as your passion that you'll get paid for, the work that you do. People will pay you for it going to be your passion. You love it. You're good at it. And basically, it works out on 3 circles. The first circle is what you enjoy doing. The next circle, which intersects that, is what you're good at. Because not everything you enjoy doing is what you're good at. But what you're good at and enjoy doing is getting closer to the middle, isn't it? But then there's another intersecting circle. So you imagine 3 circles intersecting, laying on, sort of overlapping each other. That's a better way of putting it. What people will pay you for. Now, when they all overlap, that little tiny little bit in the middle is the answer. What people will pay you for that you're good at and that's where you get paid for your purpose, your passion. Now, I've been using that, but in a different way. So I thought I can use that. And I did. And one of my experiences just the other day, I think it was yesterday. I think it was actually yesterday that I was working on something I wanted to do. And I wanted to know, what is my strategy for doing this? How do I get that real passion for doing a particular thing? So not my life's purpose, but it'll obviously be part of it if it's something I really love doing and it's worthwhile and meaningful, good for others and little planet Earth and all that stuff, all ecological stuff. And I did it and I come up with some answers. And I was pleased with myself because I thought it hurt my head to do. My thinking does get my brain really aching sometimes in a good way. And I put it down. And I thought, I'll come back to this. And I did in the afternoon. And do you know what? I couldn't make sense of some of my thoughts because they just didn't make sense anymore. And I started thinking in a slightly different way to put it back into those circles again. And I got different answers. But, and there is a but, you could say but there's a but, and the answers were deeper, more subtle. But it was as if I had to find like the sort of right answers which weren't quite right to lead me to the next one, to let them germinate inside me. But I had the intention that I knew I was going to come back and review it. I knew I was going to go deeper. And I'm probably going to go back again and look at it again, because when the answer comes, I know I'm going to find something that's going to give me a purpose, a meaning, and I'm going to go and do it. And here's a weird thing, and this was this morning. So this was yesterday. And I'm going to do a little mini podcast on what I'm going to talk about now, but I'm not going to tell you what it was. But I was just listening to a random podcast that I would not normally listen to, and I wasn't really getting it that much. And then this one sentence came out, and I thought to myself, that just fits in what I've been thinking about yesterday. That's got to work. Something's going to happen here. I wonder how that's going to change for the better. Good question. And when I come back, I wonder what I'm going to find. Good question. Because it's not just left randomly. I know I'm going to go back. I know it's going to be of value to me. I know it's important. And it's going to make a bloody difference, not only to me, but certainly that little sentence is going to make such a big difference to me, to people in my life, others around me, and little old planet Earth. It's going to be something's going to come big out of it. I just know. And not necessarily big money, but just big effect. Yeah. So it's, serendipity. How does that happen coincidentally? Because these things do happen. There is no things as coincidence apart from when it happens. Serendipitously. Anyway, I hope I hope you understand what I mean. If you do, I'm sure I know what I mean somewhere in there. But before we go, let's summarize. I'm sure if I were you, knowing what I know, I'd probably go and listen to that again and take notes, model a little bit about the modeling the questioning. Go and have a look at Tim Ferriss. I'm sure if you just Google Tim Ferriss questions, there's some real good stuff. I know there is. And make it your own. Because that's not copying when you make it your own. You're being inspired to create great changes in yourself, others, and little old plans. And that's what I want to do with you if I can. If I can just inspire you just a little bit, just as I try to inspire myself. And you can then inspire just somebody else a little bit, just a little. You'll never know how far the ripples of change will go, do you? So let's summarize. Before you go to whatever you're going to do. I started out with questions are not answers, because they're not. But the thing is, good questions with the right intention, with good listening. What's good listening? Didn't tell you that. With all your senses. Because just because you ask a question in like your own voice doesn't mean to say you're going to get an answer in your own voice. Just because you wrote it, that's still writing it, you're still saying it inside. You might get things like a sense, a feeling. Why am I feeling so-and-so? Write it down. That's on that left-hand side. It'll be important because your unconscious mind has come up with an answer, but it's giving you the answer in the modality of feelings. Or it could be a word on the tip of your tongue. What does that mean? Write it down. Or it could be a memory. Write it down. Then ask questions of that memory. What's that memory trying to tell me? Good listening could be via mind maps, by journaling, or that ikigai. Ikigai is spelled Ikigia, I think. So using ikigai type circles, which is like a mind map, which is like journaling. It's just putting things down in any way, shape or form that's going to open up for you. And also knowing when you leave things open with the right intention, i.e. experiences, ask a good question, you'll get the good experience. But if it's not an experience you want, and you want to go deeper into the answers, using your senses, mind maps, journaling, ikigai type circles or anything else, stay with it. Stay with them. Because then you will get to create great answers. And those great answers will probably create even greater questions. And what happens? Well, the circle continues, doesn't it? Greater questions, greater answers, greater questions. And you get to use that muscle in your head, that brain of yours, firing synaptic gaps, neural pathways, creating wonderful new ways for you. You're learning skills, because when you're modeling somebody, you're learning new skills. And then you're thinking about how you can use them, and you're learning new skills. And when you're doing them, you're showing other people. Even if it's only by example, you are demonstrating what can be done. You are being the change you want to see in yourself, and you're being the change, effectively, what you want to see in others. And then you share it. Just like, as always, I'm going to ask you to share this podcast, this episode. Tell people. It'll be awesome. I use that word too often, don't I? But it will be great if you listen to this podcast, because you are going to learn how to change your life just by asking a simple question. And they may be simple, because in simplicity there's genius, but constructed in the right way, the answers will be bigger than ever. Life-changing. So if you would share this in a moment to everyone you know, because that's my question to you. Can you share this to everyone you know? Can you? What would happen if you did? What would be the effect? They might think you're nutty, but does that matter? Nah, just go ahead and do it. Also, this is my little wind-up thing. Not winding up of myself here. You remember those hypnosis tracks? Because if you want help with focusing, if you want help with asking the right questions, getting in the right state, go to my free hypnosis tracks. Where are they, Paul? Go to. There's a little dramatic pause there, wasn't there? I was taking a breath, really. Go to paulcloughonline.com/podcast. All one word, podcast, by the way. You'll get something to sign in with an email. Don't worry about that. Do it. Emails are as safe as I can make them. I don't share them with anybody. They just stay there. They're safe. They just come to me. You then get access to 50 plus hypnosis NLP process. And I'm going to be doing some more shortly. There's also a few things on paulcloughonline.com. The programs for more confidence, supreme inner confidence, being able to relax. Great stuff. And you get great discounts there. But even if you don't do that, you get massive discounts if you just put in, I think it's PDU, the initials PDU40, and you get 40% off. Money back guarantee. Have a look there. Subscribe. If you haven't subscribed, look at what you're listening on and go, oh, there's that subscribe button. And press click, press and subscribe. And get these wonderful sharings. Because that's all I'm doing. I'm having a conversation with you and sharing these things. And really, my intention is for you to hopefully get something that will change. You'll share it back with me. You'll send me an email. Oh, I forgot that one. feedback@personaldevelopmentunplugged.com. Send me your thoughts, your queries, anything you'd like me to look at, talk about, that you need. Maybe there's an issue that you'd like to get a grasp of, to hold, to see a new way forward, to Just let it resonate. Maybe find a new process that just lets it all go. Send an email to me, ask a question. Comes to me only, no one else. There's all that great stuff. But the most important thing to me is that if this has just made one tiny, tiny little synaptic gap to fire, or one little neural pathway to create a little bit of, oh, that's interesting. I wonder what I could do. Question, what? I wonder what I could do. My job is done. Anyway, my job is done. So until next time, my friend, love to hear from you. Just have more fun than you can stand, especially with this. More fun than you can stand. Bye-bye now.
Warning, you are now leaving the unplugged mind of Paul Clough. It's time to fly on your own. Be brave, my friend.
Personal Development Unplugged.